Hello everyone. SEMA just released the pre-seen material for November 2025, February 2026 examinations. When candidates receive this pre-seen material, usually they just struggle without knowing what needs to be done. Therefore, I thought of giving you 6 steps that would help you to analyze, crack the pre-seen material in a way that you can maximize your marks in upcoming operational case study examination. I'm Akila Gunaratne, SEMA OCS tutor at Inspire Business School. The 6 steps. Number 1, before we look at the pre-seen, we need to have some understanding on the technical areas in the syllabus, because OCS is a more technical, skills-driven exam. In your syllabus, you have core activities and assessment outcomes given. And when you read through the assessment outcomes, you will realize that each and every outcome can be related to one or few technical areas in the syllabus. As an example, I will pick core activity A and assessment outcome 2, which is I can apply different costing methods to produce costing information. There, you can relate that to absorption costing, you can relate that to marginal costing, activity-based costing, throughput accounting, and maybe high-low method. You can relate to separate different technical areas in the syllabus. Another example would be if I take activity C, analyze performance using financial and non-financial information. Second assessment outcome is I can identify information that can enable managers to review performance. That's the first one. Second one, I can interpret variances to review functional and organizational performance. If you take the second one, it's about interpretation of variances that can be directly linked with your basic variances, then advanced variances, activity-based variances, service variances. Likewise, just go through the core activities and assessment outcomes and try to recollect the technical areas, just the names only. You don't need to go through them now, just to remind, okay, we have variances, we have budgeting, we have time series, we have forecasting, we have high-low method. Likewise, we have these areas in the syllabus, or we have KPIs, we have financial reporting standards, we have IAS 1, we have IAS 16, we have IFRS 16, likewise, just to map the assessment outcomes to the technical area. Why I'm doing that is because that helps when you go to the pre-seen material. My step number 2, read the pre-seen material in small chunks. That means if you start reading the pre-seen from top to bottom, taking maybe a couple of hours at a stretch, what happens is initially you will be focusing a lot on the material, but later you can get sidetracked and you may not remember things. You will lose the interest. Therefore, take one page or one particular area, finish it, and have a break. You can maybe listen to music or like 5 to 10 minutes break just to refresh yourselves and then come back to the pre-seen. So don't read the pre-seen at a stretch. Read it in small chunks. Otherwise, you will feel that, okay, there's a lot for me to read. And then your inertia is very high. Therefore, just to start with, okay, today, now I will start the introduction. I will read the introduction. So you read the introduction, just one paragraph. Okay, in 5 minutes, you will see, okay, I will now read about how the company was formed, history. So first paragraph only. Then another 2 paragraphs. So break this into chunks. Then every time you start a new chunk, you are fresh. So your focus is much more on the pre-seen material. Therefore, break the pre-seen into small chunks and read that you will enjoy. As an example, let's read it. Sales and production patterns. So I picked this chunk. Okay, I will use next couple of minutes to read this. So I will think about skiing is seasonal activity as it relies on snowfall and artificial snow making. The European season typically starts in late November and ends in mid to late April. Likewise, I will read the first sentence. I'll think a little bit about it and I'll go to the second one. Likewise, I will go on. Right? So read in small chunks. And number 3, the most interesting one, visualize. Visualize means when I read the sales and production patterns, the first para, I was thinking about skiing, seasonal activity, snowfall, snowmaking. Just visualize, imagine. That helps you to remember things when you visualize things, right? Otherwise, if you just keep reading as just words, you will not remember things. And take ownership. Take ownership means this is the company you are working as a finance officer. So this is your company. So we should know what's happening in this company. So take that attitude. When you have that attitude, what happens is whatever the things that you are studying, reading, will be in you, within you. Because when you make a decision on the exam day, your decision making will be very much in line with the context of the company. Therefore, visualize, take the ownership. If someone asks, okay, how is your working capital management? We should be able to answer. To whom are you reporting? We should be able to answer. So when you look at these 6 steps, understanding the technical areas, reading the praising in small chunks, and visualization, right? And when you read the praising in small chunks, the relationship between these steps, number 1 contributes to number 2. How? When you read the praising, say this one, since we have gone through the technical areas, we can see whenever you are seeing skiing is a seasonal activity, we know it can relate to time series, right? Therefore, you can always put a small arrow and highlight this and say, okay, this relates to time series in my P1, right? So likewise, you can keep relating to the technical areas that you have revised in step number 1. That's how step number 1 contributes to step number 2. And if you look at second paragraph, it says, right, the last sentence, skis in the freestyle and touring ranges are produced all year round. So if you have the production all year round, but sales in a particular season, then it builds up inventory. That's something you should know. So it links to our inventory. And then if your production is all year round, then we should be purchasing materials also in a similar manner. Then it can relate to purchasing the models like economic order quantity models. So you can make a small note. This can be related to EOQ model, because in EOQ model, we assume we purchase, the demand is constant and even throughout the year. That's the basic assumption there. So it can be applicable for freestyle and touring ranges because you produce all year round. And then they're saying that the custom skis are made to order. In the second paragraph, custom skis are made to order and the production follows a seasonal pattern. So if you make something to order, right, that means it's just in time, right? So we should be adapting JIT production and JIT purchasing as well. So link that to just in time, right? So likewise, since you've gone through, since you quickly revise the technical areas that is there, then when you read phrasing in chunks, you can relate to these technical areas. You can just write. And the advantage is, if you get a question from EOQ model, you know that, okay, EOQ model, I related in the phrasing to this particular section. You can track back and quickly recollect where in the phrasing that I could relate that particular technical area. That's the advantage, right? So step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, visualization. So visualization, the moment we start with the introduction, start the visualization. Sumtrix is a company that manufactures and sells freestyle and touring skis. When you look at that, okay, just imagine, I've given a picture of someone skiing, right? Just imagine, visualize, imagine the snow, what they are doing, right? Then it's easy for you to remember and connect the stuff together, right? It's in Reland, country in Northern Europe, and take the ownership. As I told you, we should know who my boss is. I'm a finance officer, right? I have 2 assistants in our departments, and my boss is head of finance, Maria. Director is Marcus. So we should know. When you know like that, you don't get any extra marks for writing these names, but when you know who my boss is, who my boss's boss is, then we have that ownership, and whatever decision that we are taking in the examination will be very much in line with the company. So take that ownership, have that attitude. Number 4, while reading the preseen, note the key points. There will be information on sales channels, sales mix, channel mix, which markets, then seasonality, and then our costing systems, then key steps in our production processes, our supplier credit terms given to customers, whether it's B2C or B2B. There will be certain information. Therefore, note those key points. As an example, you have a note called Note on Standards and Budgets Preparation. I think it's updated annually. And if you look at number 4, they're saying our overhead absorption rate is based on labor hours. Note that information. Our OAR is based on labor hours. And number 6, budgets are prepared annually on incremental basis, a limited participation by operational managers. Note that. So right now, we do our budgets on incremental basis, and managers have little involvement. It's imposed style. Note those key points. Note the key points. Maybe you can note it down separately. Maybe you can note them down in the preseen itself. That is noting down the information, key information in the preseen while reading. Step number 5. While reading, try to generate some information. Generate means we process and we get some additional information. One example is calculation. You can calculate receivable days, inventory days, payable days for the company. We know that in Sumtrix, credit sale or B2B is 61% of your sale. Therefore, you can use 61% and multiply your revenue by that to get our credit portion and use that to calculate receivable days. So you'll get around 47 receivable days, inventory days around 72, payable days around 66, which gives you a working capital cycle of 53 days. So do that calculation. To generate that information, we may need this information to answer certain queries in the OCS exam. When you read the production information, try to see what kind of key performance indicators we can come up with. What are the KPIs on sales? What are the KPIs on production? Try to write them down, try to think, generate that information. When you go through the production process, try to note down, think, what are the activities in this business? What are the possible cost drivers in the business? Generate that information. Calculate some ratios, like the working capital days, liquidity ratio, current ratio, quick ratio. Try to calculate those ratios. And another calculation that you can do from the budget is try to calculate how much is my total fixed production overhead divided by the total production cost and see what the percentage. If this percentage is significant, that's a point to argue that activity-based costing is suitable for this company. So do those calculations, generate that information. So whenever you get a task related to that information in the exam, you already have the weapons in your hand to attack, right? And the last one, create scenarios after completing your Preseen. You have understood the technical areas, just revised. You read the Preseen in small chunks while relating to different areas in the syllabus. You visualize what's happening, how skis are produced, how those are used, where my suppliers are, who are my customers, my channels, all that, taxation, all that. You have noted down the key points like the costing methods, how we set standards, our budgeting, and then standard cost card, some basics, and tax, capital gains tax. Do we have anything as such? What is my value added tax? What is my corporate income tax? Likewise, I've noted key points. I've generated the information, like I've done some ratios, I've done some calculations, noted KPIs, activities, cost drivers, likewise. And now, up to 5, it's a very micro level analysis that we do. Number 6, look at the business in a macro perspective. Overall, what the business can do, what kind of scenarios. And in the Preseen, they've given different types of skis, and we are doing freestyle, touring, and custom. And we can go to new types. So that can be a theme in the exam. We can go to new markets. They are experimenting in North America right now. Can they go to Asia as well? If they go to Asia or North America, what kind of task they can ask you? Forecasting? Can they relate to time series? Can they ask you to do a budget or interpret a budget or do a sensitivity analysis, do a variance analysis, right? Interpret a variance analysis, right? Efficiency improvements, our budgeting is based on incremental. Can't we go into zero-based? If so, what are the benefits? What are the differences between zero-based to incremental? And then what are the steps in implementing zero-based budgeting? What are the efficiency improvements as such? Any acquisitions that we can do? Can we acquire companies? If so, what kind of task that a finance officer has to perform? Obviously, finance officer will not be evaluating the acquisition as a strategic option, no, but we'll be helping. Maybe we will look at their receivable collection method. Can we use factoring for them, right? How our variances are affected, or how to do a variance interpretation of the company that we are trying to acquire, likewise. Any divestment, shutdown decisions? Can we have anything of that nature? Are we to discontinue a particular category of products? Any sustainability improvements that we could do? So on and so forth. Think about these possible scenarios after reading your Preseen. So these possible scenarios can be themes in your exam. Each and every variant in your exam has a theme. Under that theme, they're giving you different tasks. Tasks can be related to the technical areas. Therefore, when you have these themes, and since you looked at the different technical areas that could be related to the Preseen, you can quickly derive what kind of task that can be tested under each of these scenarios. So that will help you to be better mentally prepared for operational case study exam. So these 6 steps will definitely help you to analyze your Preseen or crack your Preseen in a much more meaningful manner. Therefore, don't just read the Preseen, just keep these 6 steps in your mind and read your Preseen. I wish all of you all the very best for your SEMA operational case study examination. And you can reach out to me anytime when you need to clarify any doubt in relation to your exam. All the best. Thank you, everyone.